press conference. Ian Gary, Colby Covington, not in the same weight class, but apparently they're feuding and going to fight. I can't wait for it. What are you thinking?
Wait, isn't No, Ian Gary is a welterweight, but yeah, I'm pumped for that. I think the thing that a lot of stuff you might be getting it mixed up is Sean Strickland and Ian Gary beefing with the.
That's right. That's right. I am getting that mixed up too. God damn, I wish Sean Strickland was on this card too. Have just three loudmouths on there going at each other.
Yeah, be careful with the cursing in the first couple of minutes, man. But yeah, no, man, I am pumped for that because that is a potential matchup that could happen, right? Because you're gonna have Leon beefing with Ian Gary too. Like they were in the same gym for a while, and then Ian Gary allegedly got knocked out there. And Colby and Ian being both welterweights, there's gonna be beef there. And I was listening to Chael talk about it, and he was saying that like Ian Gary's potentially gonna have to like side with somebody that he's gonna say is gonna win in this fight to get out of maybe beefing with that one person and get like just attention from one guy instead of both of them. But it is going to be interesting. I mean, I'm excited to break down this fight, like this whole card. This not only is this press conference happening too, but also Friday there's a seasonal press conference, and it's such a genius move by the UFC.
Is that new?
Yeah, that's a new thing. They got so they got this. I think it's Colby's going to be up there. Maybe Leon. Definitely Sean Strickland and Dreykus, Moira Bueno Silva, and Rocky Pennington, I think, are up there. They'll get asked the least amount of questions. And then who will probably get asked the most is Sean O'Malley and Chito Vera. That's a big deal. And Volk and Ilya, that's a big deal. So that's Friday before the fights. I'm pumped for that. I think that's a new thing. I haven't really seen that take place, but it's a smart move because you have so many of these personalities that are lining up.
I don't know when the last time they had them.
Yeah, I haven't. I don't know, but there's so many personalities headlining these press conferences over the next couple of months, and like while the co-mains that they've announced are fun and everything, it's just you got to get all these personalities up there once. It's gonna be fun.
You got these two guys.
Yeah, you have certain guys talking about like going up in weight classes and talking and fighting people and. Entertaining some champ possibilities. I do believe they said Colby was going to be there too, but it would make sense if he wasn't because he is fighting on Saturday. So that's another thing. That's right. Donald Trump is going to be there at 296, and Colby said he will not lose in front of Donald Trump.
Says he can't lose in front of Donald Trump.
Yeah. But so I'm pumped for this card. There's a lot of action on here, and especially this press conference. Yeah. All right. Let's do it, man.
Before we do that, we'll roll the intro, and then we'll get into our picks from last week. Let's freaking go. It's time! Let's freaking go, yo. So I have it pulled up right here. Pickin fights from last week. We did pretty well. I think there was like maybe one upset by the Iron Turtle, but let's check out what we had to say last week. We'll speed this up for everybody at home. Let's see what we had to say last week.
Alrighty, for prelim notables, I'm going with Tatsuro Taira, Hyun Sung Park, and did we have another one?
I said Daniel Marcos.
Oh, yes. How could I forget? Daniel Marcos, 15-0 over Carlos Vera. That's right.
How do we do with those off the top of our head? Do you remember?
No, I got to pull them up on Tapology. We didn't get to do this on Sunday. It's not super fresh in my mind, unfortunately. But
Tatsuro Taira got the W.
Yeah.
Round 2, knockout. We said
first UFC knockout.
What was that? His first UFC knockout.
First UFC knockout, yep.
Daniel Marcos' fight was canceled. And
Hyun Sung Park got the W.
And Hyun Sung Park got the W. So pretty much I count that as 2-0-1 or 2-0-1. I don't know how we're going to count canceled fights, but you can't count against us.
And then main card, I'm telling you on that one. That is your pick, but I'm telling you. Main card, I got Nasrat Haqparast over Jamie Malarkey.
Win.
Yeah. Jun Young Park, the Iron Turtle, over Andre Muni. Loss. He's Alan Nascimento over Suma Derji. Canceled. Khalil Roundtree over Anthony Smith. Well, Sumaderji still lost that, and then Khalil Roundtree knocked out Anthony.
Anthony Smith. He
That was
really could have knocked him out in the first and then decided to finish it in the second, right?
that was crazy how he stood over him, like threatening the hammer fist, like
Well,
telling the ref basically, like, if you don't end this right, he's done. If
I'm
you
gonna end
don't,
this in his life. Yeah.
it's gonna be a bad one.
And I think earlier, right before the end of the first round too, Khalil had sat him down and was in a position to finish too, but the round had ended. And then Anthony Smith came back out there, got starched again, dropped on the thing. And the way he like rolled away from Khalil, and some guys chase after to really finish. I think Khalil is very kind of collected inside of himself and was just like, I don't want to. He's even said in press conference that he's like, I don't want to do more damage than I have to. So he just kind of let that one go, I guess. But
Khalil is a tactician when it comes down to it. Like, I think that he knows how he wants to end fights. Like, he had that fight where he won by oblique kick. I can't remember who it was against. When he folded his knee inwards. Kind of a dirty move, in my opinion, but you see him looking for that the entire fight. And other than that, he's throwing hands, but he's reserved. He knows how he wants to end a fight, and against Anthony Smith, I think he wanted to put him lights out, standing up, and I think he just knew that's what he wanted to do. Is he picked his shots,
especially when he has Anthony Smith hurt and he sees that he can drop him. I think to your point, especially, but why dish more punishment than you have to? Anthony Smith's around there rolling around on the ground, and I think also to Khalil's like credit, he's looking for a good shot. Like the way Conor McGregor would deliver ground and pound is he's going to look for the shot and then boom, give a big strike. He's not one of these guys that's just going to go out there and load trying to just hammer fist. He's going to try and look for good follow-up shots that are actually going to land. That target opponent. So I think maybe there's a little bit of that too that Khalil was trying to do because Anthony Smith was rolling around so much and kind of just so out of it. I think he was looking for the right shot to deliver a final blow. And unfortunately, it was kind of a weird stoppage because the ref wasn't immediately jumping in. Khalil's kind of like looking for the shot. Anthony Smith is over in Pluto. So
that's what I'm saying. He just not even looking for it, just showing it that like it's like end it because it's gonna hurt.
Yeah, end it right now because if I find this shot, this guy doesn't know where he is. He's going out. So
yeah, he's out there. It's just gonna smack his head off the canvas. What do we got next?
Song Yadong over Chris Gutierrez. What do you got?
Easy. Chris Gutierrez from the fight though. I will say, like, I thought that Song Yadong was gonna finish that one. Chris Gutierrez did put up a fight. Chris Gutierrez has a nice leg kick, and a solid chin and good defense, but if Song Yadong's not going to finish you, he's at least going to outpoint strike you. It's just how it goes.
But so you got, what was that, 1 wrong and 2 canceled?
Yeah, and I think we had the same picks on the card. Pretty.
Yeah, I'm going to be pretty much a mirror image of you. Daniel Marcos over Carlos Vera. I'm taking Tatsuro Taira over Carlos Hernandez and Hyung-Sung Park over Shannon Ross. Up to the main card, we got Nasrat Haqparast. I think he's going to get Hyung-Sung Park over Shannon Ross.
Yeah.
Yep. Knockout in the second round. The winner, Jaden Malarkey via decision. Jung Young Park over Andre Muniz. I think he's going to get a TKO victory in that one. Alan Nascimento, I think he's going to get a submission or a decision victory over Sumaderji. Doesn't matter. Fight was canceled.
Yeah, but Sumaderji still lost, though. I think Tim Elliott in there.
Yeah, they threw Tim Elliott. Dirty Bird came in there and picked up the win there. I'm not going to count that.
We did say no, but I will say we did say that Sumaderji, his weak spot, or at least I said it and you agreed, is that Sumaderji's weak spot is the submission game. And Tim Elliott went out there and found a submission on short notice. So we were right in the call, by submission. There is that there,
Khalil Roundtree, TKO over Anthony Smith, and Song Yadong. Spot on. TKO over Chris Gutierrez.
Yeah. He didn't finish him, but
all in all, some pretty good picks last week leading into last week's fight. So for this week, let's do it right. Let's keep that rolling. UFC 296. We talked about it in the like little intro thing we're doing. Basically a good fight everywhere up and down the card, with maybe one potential exception, maybe 2, but fantastic fight card. I'm really looking forward to it. Starting off with Randy Brown and Muslim Salikov.
Yeah.
What was that you got to say?
Yeah, I was gonna say, you know what's good? You said there's like maybe one or two bad fights on here. We don't even have to talk about them. Like we have our prelim notable. The main card is stacked. I'm pumped to talk about that whole thing. But like
Absolutely.
when it comes to prelim notables, I have just a couple. Three. I want to really touch on.
It's
But
actually so crazy that we have a full main card that Bryce Mitchell's on the card, but not on the main card. Same thing with Josh Emmett, who just fought for a title.
yeah, I mean, I think you could say this. Listen, this whole prelim could be potentially like a Apex main card.
That is true.
You
Cody
know,
Garbrandt, big name value. Casey O'Neill, Alonzo Manyfield. I think he's on a few fight win streak too.
yeah, and he's typically on like the main card of like an Apex fight night. Tagir Ulanbekov and Cody Durden. These guys are Andre Feely. Like they're known names. You know, they're typically on like a prelim. You know, I mean a fight night main card every now and then.
Yeah.
So
With that being said, let's
it's a good one. That's what I'm getting at.
let's get into our prelim notables.
Yeah.
Sorry, I cut you off there. You can
No,
go
I was
first.
just saying, yeah, let's do it. Listen, I want to kick it off real quick. I got one I want to talk about, and that is Casey O'Neill. Casey O'Neill over Ariane Lipski. I'm a massive Casey O'Neill fan. Casey King O'Neill, King Casey. She's a savage, I think, and really was killing it in her time before the UFC. She did lose her last fight and got hurt against Jennifer Maia. Other than that, you know, she hasn't really had an opportunity to shine in the UFC. I don't think. You know, she finished her first couple of UFC fights, and then last two weren't really great showings for her. Had a split decision victory over Roxanne Modafferi in Roxanne Modafferi's farewell fight. Which, like, you know, against Roxanne Modafferi, you would hope to have a really solid victory. Ariane Lipski, though, she's hovering. You know, she's mid tier in the women's flyweight division, and Casey O'Neill is someone that, especially post injury, she's really taken her time to come back from her injury. You know, I just think that it's like about her time, and she's ready to emerge. She's so good in every area of the game. And I think that she's just going to win a solid decision victory over Ariane Lipski. What do you think, Tom?
Yeah, I actually have a couple of things to say about this in regards to Ariane Lipski. And you look at the level of competition. She lost to Montana De La Rosa by being ground and pounded and gotten out of there. She beat Mandy Bowen by decision, lost to Priscilla Cachoeira by knockout, and then picked up 2 wins, both by decision over JJ Aldrich and Melissa Gatto. Ariane Lipski is not doesn't have a lot of high output, whereas Casey O'Neill, obviously on a 4-fight win streak, split decision over Roxanne Modafferi, and then lost to Jennifer Maia. What I will say, and what I think is really telling and going to make the difference in this fight, is the strikes landed per minute here. If you look at Ariane Lipski, 3.94, just under 4, and strikes landed per minute for Casey O'Neill, King Casey, 8.77, doubling that up. She does have a few more strikes absorbed, but she's also been in a lot more back and forth wars. She doesn't necessarily go to that ground game as much as Ariane Lipski would, so I think that could could explain this. But also the crazy thing is that she also averages almost 4 times as many takedowns across 15 minutes as Ariane Lipski does. We talked about the gym she's training out of, Extreme Couture and 10th Planet Jiu-Jitsu. Now, that's not to say that King's MMA is a scrub gym by any means. It's absolutely not. But Casey O'Neill, she's going to have the reach advantage. She has the age advantage. She obviously is a minus 210 favorite, but I think the volume of punches and her ability to strike and the striking overall competence, it's what's going to win her this fight. I don't think we're going to see a knockout. I think we're going to see Casey O'Neill probably winning all 3 rounds, unless Ariane Lipski can get her to the ground and show off some jiu-jitsu prowess that we maybe haven't seen. But again, I don't expect Casey O'Neill, training with everyone out of Extreme Couture and 10th Planet Las Vegas, I don't expect her to go out there and just be manhandled on the ground by Ariane Lipski. So for all those reasons, I'm right there with you. Casey O'Neill by decision if you want to make it extra sweet. But yeah, I like Casey O'Neill to get this one done. On the UFC 296 prelims.
Yeah, see, my logic was more rooted in my love for Casey O'Neill. I'm a big fan of hers.
I
Yours?
know that is. I had to provide the actual metrics. Like, yes, you love her, but there's also good reason to love her in this one.
Yours was solid factual information. I'm glad you followed up with that. What do you got? You got one for us?
Yeah, I do. I got Randy Brown. I like him over Muslim Salikov here. And here's the reason why. 78-inch reach over a 70-inch reach. And Muslim Salikov is a guy who, for only having a 70-inch reach at 5'11", is a guy, and he's 39 years old, by the way, is a guy who likes to pick people apart from the outside. And yes, he's going to have a somewhat of a decent grappling game to fall back on just on the fact that he's Russian. But being a king of kung fu, picking people apart on the outside, and relying on speed and technique to get through and land on guys, I just don't think that's going to work on Randy Brown, who's 33 years old, still in his prime. He's got quick limbs. He's much longer, much taller. He has not that tall isn't necessarily something that you always look for in fights, but when you look at that reach, having 8 inches, if not more, on Muslim Salikov, a guy who likes to stand at distance and range, and fire off shots from distance. I think Randy provides a really, really difficult matchup for Muslim Salikov. And then you add in the years. Then you add in that he hasn't looked great over his last three, 3-2 over his last five. Elijah Zaleski has a split decision 3 years ago. Francisco Trinaldo on I believe on his way out picked up a decision over him. I think he was 40 at the time. A year and a half ago, lost to Li Jingliang. Anybody with a relative like power in their hands is going to present a problem for Muslim Salikov. He's got a win over Andre Fialho, who a lot of people have a win over Andre Fialho, and then 5 months ago took up a loss to Nicholas Dalby. And I just think a guy who's going to be longer and an accomplished striker is going to present a lot of problems for Muslim Salikov. Then we talk about the age disparity here. I like Randy Rude Boy Brown to get this one done. We also look at the Tapology votes, 78% saying it by decision. I agree with that. I don't think that anyone thinks of Randy Brown as the guy who's going to go out there and finish people, put them away, but he's going to accumulate some damage over 3 rounds. He's going to stab at you with long legs and long arms from distance, and I think he's going to land more shots. I think he's going to probably land the bigger shots. I don't think Muslim Salikov is going to get in there on the inside and be able to try to piece up Randy Brown, which is what Jack Della Maddalena was able to do. And then once it went to the ground, obviously, we know what happened there with the submission, but that was after getting pieced up in close. And I just don't think Muslim Salikov has the style nor the ability at 39 years old to get that one done. So I feel very confident in going with the minus 260 favorite from Jamaica, but out of Queens, New York, go with Randy Rude Boy Brown.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. Guys that give Muslim Salikov the opportunity to be like flashy are the guys that he thrives against, and Randy Brown is not going to give him that opportunity. Like when Muslim Salikov is allowed to control the distance, when he's allowed to like pull off his spinning kicks and spinning attacks, and he does have a really good kicking attack from distance, but like against guys like Li Jingliang that are willing to take the fight to him and do have power, like you said, he does not thrive. And Randy Brown also doesn't really thrive against guys that are going to bring the fight to him, like against a guy like Jack Della Maddalena. But against a guy like Muslim Salikov who wants to stay at range, Randy Brown's he's gonna succeed. It's just styles make fights, and the matchup does not bode well for Muslim Salikov. Randy Brown is willing to close the distance on him and hit him with some powerful shots. And while he might not finish the fight, he's going to win. He's going to win on the scorecards. I agree with you on that, Tom. I was laughing before, kind of snickering a little bit when you said Li Jingliang, because that video of Brendan Schaub getting everybody's name wrong popped up on my feed when he called him Jingling. I can't help myself. That video cracks me up every time. Evil Chinese man jingling. Kills me. I got another one for us.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just going to take a look real quick. I'm going to go with Cody Garbrandt over Brian Kelleher, and it kind of pains me to do so. But Brian Kelleher, he's 2-3 over his last 5. Cody Garbrandt, not much better. He's also 2-3 over his last 5. Brian Kelleher's fought really good competition. I think Cody Garbrandt's fought the better competition of the two. He's slowly been slipping, over time. He has no chin really anymore. He got knocked out by Kai Kara France, but that Umar Nurmagomedov is the big thing on Brian Kelleher's record, right? You kind of have to discredit that loss a little bit. He was like a minus 600 favorite against Brian Kelleher, but Brian Kelleher is being used as a stepping stone for guys lately. Cody Garbrandt is trying to get back into the mix, or at least provide us with entertaining fights. I think it's going to be an entertaining fight. Cody Garbrandt has like decent wrestling and decent takedown defense. And Brian Kelleher, I think, is going to try and take him to the ground. He's not going to succeed. And then it's going to turn to a boxing match between Brian Kelleher, who is not like super great on his feet. We've seen him like fight well against guys like Kevin Kroom, who are like a little bit of a step slow, and get wins against him. But guys that are a little bit quicker, like Cody Garbrandt, tend to find Brian Kelleher's chin. He doesn't have great head movement. Cody Garbrandt's head movement's just good enough nowadays to get away from Brian Kelleher. His footwork's still good enough to maintain his distance and snap off a couple of jabs and defend the takedown. So I like Cody Garbrandt this week against Brian Kelleher. What do you think, Tom?
This is one that I want to stay away from because of Cody Garbrandt's unpredictability. Brian Kelleher, he's aging, he's getting older. Yes, he has a couple of losses recently, but those are against predominantly grapplers. He has been thrown into the fire a little bit to boost other people, but this is one where I actually would maybe want to take Brian Kelleher at the plus money. Reason being is you look at his loss, Ricky Simone, which is not a bad loss 3 years ago. Ricky Simone, being able to contend with Ricky Simone on the feet and on the ground, I think puts a lot of favor into Brian Kelleher's into his side. You have, a couple decision wins that he's able to go out there. He's not a big knockout artist. He has 3, 6, 7, 8 knockouts over his career. He only been knocked out once too. So I think Cody Garbrandt, someone who's maybe going to rely on a knockout to get a win at this point in his career. I think I wouldn't necessarily say that like Cody Garbrandt is 100% quicker because he's dealt with a lot of damage and he's been knocked out quite a few times. Listen, he went back and forth with Rafael Assunção, and then he just caught Assunção at the end of the round with basically a hook, hit him with a left hook and walk-off knockout. But 2.5 years ago, he went back and forth with Rob Font. About 2 years ago, he got knocked out by Kara France, took over a year off, comes back and has a decision win over Trevin Jones, which he didn't look bad in that fight, but he didn't look spectacular either, and he definitely didn't look back, as one might say. So Brian Kelleher has knocked out people before. I don't think that's going to be the case here, although I would give a slight advantage to Brian Kelleher. If we're just going to talk about who has the better potential to knock the other one out, I might actually go Brian Kelleher because he's had less damage taken. He has less examples of himself getting knocked out than Cody Garbrandt does. Also, you look at Brian Kelleher, and a lot of the losses are submissions on the ground. And I don't see Cody Garbrandt going down and trying to submit him. I think Cody Garbrandt is very prideful, and he's going to want to win this one standing up because he thinks Brian Kelleher is much lower of a competition for him. I think Kelleher is not going to have to deal with ground game, which has been his Achilles heel in the past. I think he has been a little bit more active. That's totally a lie. He's been more active up until that submission by Mario Batista. So this one for me is a total toss-up. So I would want to stay away from it in terms of prelim notables. But because it's so much of a toss-up at plus 180, it would make me want to lean a little bit more to the Kelleher side to get some plus money than the Cody No Love Garbrandt side, which Cody No Love should be Cody No Profit, because anytime you bet on him, you're probably not going to win. So for those reasons, I think I would have to stay away from this one. But if you're going to put my feet to the fire and make me pick, I'm going with Brian Kelleher.
All right. Well, I think in terms of prelim notable, it's still a notable fight. It's
absolutely 100% notable. And that's the problem with like this segment versus 296 is almost every fight on the prelims is notable and worth talking about.
Yeah, there was that guy that won the Become a Matchmaker challenge or whatever.
Yeah.
And it was like his first match up that he made as a matchmaker hired by the UFC. So
keep him on. This is
pretty monumental. There's another one we could talk about. I'm sure you want to. Josh.
Before we get to that, let me get one juicy one in there. Shamil Gaziev taking on Martin Buday.
That was
Martin Buday minus 185 favorite. I'm going with the newcomer Shamil Gaziev to get the win in his UFC debut. I know that's a little bit against the grain, and we don't typically do this, but here's why. Even though his competition has been somewhat questionable, 0-0, 13-0-1, not bad. 4-1, 17-5, 6-0. I also like that he's winning by a variety of different ways. You got the submission rear naked choke, you got punches, you got another rear naked choke right over here. Martin Buday, let's look at his 5 wins. You have Lorenzo Hood on the Contender Series. You have Chris Barnett, which I know we love Chris Barnett, but if you're fighting Chris Barnett to a decision, Chris Barnett doesn't have energy after the 2-minute mark in the first round.
Right.
So you let him go another 13 minutes just to win a decision. I don't like the finishing ability, and I don't like the overall skill level of a fighter who's going to have that happen. Lucas Bresky, split decision, not as bad. Jake Collier, not split decision, but unanimous decision. That's not great either. And then finally, you have 3 months ago, he got a submission over Josh Parisian, a guy who probably shouldn't have been in the UFC to begin with. It's because we have this ballooned UFC heavyweight division that has a bunch of people in it that are just not UFC quality, UFC caliber talents. So yes, he's 5-0 in the UFC, Martin Buday, but he comes in there and he doesn't look like he's a guy who is trained very serious. He looks like he maybe could be 185 and he uses additional fat to get him up to 265. Whereas Shamil Gaziev, it's his first fight in the UFC. They're about the same age. They're about the same measurables. He's a little bit bigger. He's shown he's got power. He's shown he's got a ground game. He's shown he can, get a submission if need be. So for all of those reasons, I'm actually going to go with the 155 underdog in Shamil Gaziev to get it done over Martin Buday, because I just don't like the appearances we've seen of Martin Buday, and his caliber of competition is questionable at best. So give me the plus money against the guy that we've seen and haven't been impressed with.
Yeah, I'm gonna tell you on this one. This is not one that I would have thought to have gone with, but your logic is so sound, especially after bringing up Martin Buday's lackluster resume. Really disappointing at best. Like you said, we love Chris Barnett. Chris Barnett, if you're not finishing him, he's not finishing you. How are you going to a decision with him? It does not make sense. I don't think the guy could run a mile. There's no way he's going 15 full minutes in a UFC fight. That stands out big
15 active minutes. He can sit there and stand and just,
he's not trying to do that, though. He's not.
So, well, no, he's going to go out there and he's going to give everything he has for the first 2.5 minutes. And then from that point on, he's got nothing left to give. He's a showman. So he's going to last potentially, but it's not much competition you're up against.
No. Listen, do you remember when Ben Rothwell? I think it was Ben Rothwell. He fought. He gave himself up to Ben Rothwell.
Yes. Yeah.
So how are you going to a decision with him? It doesn't make sense. Like, he's not giving himself up for a choke at that point. So I'm gonna go with his name's Shamil Gaziev. I like the pick. So
that now to the fight that I assumed you wanted to talk about. Josh Emmett. Bryce Thug Nasty Mitchell, undercard, last minute fight thrown together. What are your first impressions on this one?
Who was Bryce? Oh, Bryce was supposed to fight Giga Chikadze, right?
Yeah, he was. Let's go and check that out and see what goes through on here.
I was pumped for that one. Oh, it was supposed to be Josh Emmett, right?
Josh Emmett was supposed to fight Giga Chikadze.
That would have been more fun as a matchup, I think, because, we saw what Bryce Mitchell did with Edson Barboza, and Edson Barboza and Giga Chikadze are very similar fighters. It is interesting you have Bryce Mitchell taking this one on last minute, and he's the favorite in this one, but I think it's because of what he's done to pretty much everyone except for Ilia Topuria. Who did he fight last? Bryce Mitchell when he came out with the Bible? Oh,
Danny Ige.
Yeah, same thing. He takes guys down, and whether they want to sit and he or whether they want to keep him in their full guard or he wants to sit there, he don't care. He'll just pop up, land a shot every now and then. And he basically looks like he's swimming the freestyle because he's going like this and butt scooting, the whole way across. Whatever. That's how it's going to look against Josh Emmett, though. I think Josh Emmett's slipping a little bit too. These weight cuts are getting real hard for him. So I think you're just going to see Bryce Mitchell take him down and, do whatever he wants. That's it. So Bryce Mitchell by decision. What do you think, Tom?
I'm gonna have to go against you again. First of all, before I get into it, did we know that Josh Emmett had a nickname? And if he did, CCO, CC0?
Never heard of it.
That's new to me. Regardless, I'm actually gonna go the opposite, and here's why. Josh Emmett has been training for a fight. Josh Emmett is in relatively better shape fight-wise than Bryce Mitchell would be. Number two, Bryce Mitchell, 2 months ago, yes, he spent a lot of the time on top of Dan Ige punching him, but he also, if you remember his face, he had taken some damage from Dan Ige back too. So 2 months, you figure your brain recovers probably 4 to 6 weeks. You want to recover from some sort of concussion. So if he's back to training full capacity, 4 weeks later, then you have a fight 2 weeks later. There's just not a whole lot of leeway time. Does he, after the fight, immediately start eating again? Like, how does that whole, how do the logistics work? I don't understand. I don't know for a fact, where Bryce is going to be when he comes in here, but there's, I think, at least the cause for concern given the rapid turnaround time and the short notice fight acceptance. So those are my first things. On top of it, Josh Emmett, his most recent fight 5 months ago, Ilia Topuria fought to a decision. Ilia Topuria. Yeah. Why did that not sound right when I said it? Topuria, whatever.
It sounded okay to me.
When he fought Ilia Topuria, now none of it sounds right. When he fought Ilia, he showed competence all over, even though Topuria was a little bit better and a little bit more refined in a bunch of different areas. And even though Josh Emmett is 38, almost 10 years the senior of his opponent in this one, Bryce Mitchell, I think Bryce is going to have a hard time getting Josh Emmett to the ground. Remember, he's got a good wrestling background. He's much more jacked than really anyone Bryce Mitchell has fought up until this point. Even when he fought, who was the one who really put him on the map for the win? It was when he fought Edson Barboza. He got one unanimous decision for Edson Barboza, but he also knocked him out in the first round, or knocked him down in the first round, should I say. Edson Barboza, even though he's cut and shredded, he's not big and jacked. And I would say Josh Emmett, for 145 pounds, is jacked. He probably walks in there at 185, 190, and he's got a wrestling background. I think Bryce is going to have a difficult time, or at least more of a difficult time, getting into the ground and holding Josh Emmett to the ground, being such a wrestler. And then number two, got to remember, when Josh Emmett fought Ilia Topuria's got a really well and really refined striking game that Bryce Mitchell just does not possess. The only time Bryce Mitchell is going to have success on the feet is when his opponent is concerned about the takedown coming back. I don't know that Josh Emmett is going to be as concerned about it. I know that he's going to probably be in better shape, both physically and just in terms of lack of injuries, probably coming out of the last training camp. He's got a solid ground game. He's got power in his hands still. I kind of like Josh Emmett, plus 140, short notice. Give it to me. He's been training. I'm gonna have to go with Josh Emmett here. I don't want to see Bryce Mitchell, go 1-2 over his last 3. I think he'll probably get some sort of benefit of the doubt for taking the fight on short notice when it comes to his next matchup. If he does in fact lose, I think Bryce Mitchell has to go out there, have a really good showing. I'm gonna have to go with Josh Emmett in this one. I look at the Tapology picks. They're more in line with you than they are with me, but yeah, I'm gonna have to go with Josh Emmett here. I think he's got good experience in terms of the competition he's fought. It's harder than Bryce Mitchell has. He's been in there with the best of them. He's been in there with a Calvin Kattar that he went to a split decision with. He lost to Yair Rodriguez. He got submitted, and Bryce Mitchell, he's good at jiu-jitsu, but mostly positional control jiu-jitsu or wrestling, not necessarily submission wrestling, even though he does have that twister on his record. I don't think he's going to submit Josh Emmett. I think Josh Emmett is going to be far too accomplished to allow that to happen. I think he's going to prevent some of the moves. Actually, Bryce Mitchell doesn't even advance much. He just kind of sits in control or in a full guard and just beats up at people. Maybe Bryce is going to be able to get Josh Emmett down and continue to do that, but Josh Emmett is constantly working. He's a dog in there. He's going to have a full training camp. Give me Josh Emmett.
Yeah, I don't know, man. I think the odds makers have it set this way for a reason, though. I don't know if it's necessarily a trap line or anything. I think it's just like you're seeing a steady decline of Josh Emmett over the last couple of fights. And the weight cut's been so hard on him, bro. Like, dude, since he fought, who was it he fought before Yair? Oh, since he fought Calvin Kattar, he's been looking depleted.
Mm-hmm.
And I wouldn't be surprised. I wouldn't be surprised if that's how he looks on Friday too. Like he really looks like shit after a weight cut or during a weight cut. Bryce Mitchell, on the other hand, you got to keep in mind he has the power of Jesus Christ on his side.
That is true. He has the power of Jesus Christ, and he sees through all of the lies. What is his main thing now? Do you believe in evolution? They're lying to you, brother. So
that's from Satan.
It's Satan, brother.
We are the apex predator. How could we be from monkey? Yeah, he kills me. He's so funny.
Hulk Hogan.
Yeah. He needs to get his striking up. That's it. Like I could see a world in which Josh Emmett pieces him up with the striking, but I really do think Bryce Mitchell's just gonna take him to the ground over it. Like there's a lot of fights where it's like, oh, is this person really gonna be able to take him down 3 times and control them for 5 minutes? I think there's actually there's a world in which that happens in this fight. You want to go to the main card?
Yes, sir.
All right.
Leading us off, the man, the myth, the legend, the future, Ian Machado Gary taking on Vicente Luque. Which way you leaning on this one?
The man, the myth, the legend, the future. We're like I don't even want to say it. I don't want to get in trouble on YouTube, but Ian Gary. I don't know if you could call him the man at all. I don't know. I mean, I'm disappointed in him, and more so because when Vicente Luque found Christ going into this fight, Ian Machado Gary had bad stuff to say about that. And it's like, brother, this guy is doing something ultimately like super positive for him and is potentially like a good role model move for other people. And you're doing immoral stuff. You've got a weird family model going, and I don't think that's a good example for people. And, this fucking guy is so sensitive after talking so much shit about so many people and putting mug shots on T-shirts and, saying that, what was it, that Jeff Neal or Neil Magny beats his kids or something. Mm-hmm. And he's just such a scumbag, crybaby, hypocrite. I'm so sick of him, and I think that Vicente Luque is going to beat him this week. At plus 205, I think that's a good line. I think, again, you got another guy.
I see here in Tapology.
Oh, 285, right. You got another guy. Listen, we're coming up on Christmas, right? Bryce Mitchell has the power of Christ on his side. I think Vicente Luque, having found Christ and being baptized recently, he's going to have the power of Christ on his side as well coming up on Christmas. And Ian Machado Gary doesn't, he's fought good competition. He's steadily climbing up the rankings in the welterweight division. But Vicente Luque, we've seen time and time again, has the power to surprise us. He's a guy that can come through in a lot of fights. And he's got power in his hands, and he's got really good jiu-jitsu that a lot of people often forget about. A lot of people remember the striking, but people forget about like the Darce chokes that he's pulled off on guys over time. And if there's a situation where this fight goes to the ground, I think that he has a really solid advantage over Ian Gary, despite Ian Gary having a jiu-jitsu wife that wraps him up and multiple other men probably like every weekend. But Ian Gary shined with his striking, especially when he can back guys down against the fence and like really just lay into them. And I don't think you're going to see a fight where Vicente Luque allows that to happen. He has fought like really good strikers like RDA in his last fight. Sure, RDA is a little bit older, but he's still got power in his hands. I don't think Ian Gary's like that fast. I think he's just more precise and his timing is on point more than anything. But Vicente Luque's got good timing and good power as well. It's going to be a fun striking matchup. I hope it goes to the ground, though, so Vicente Luque just submits Ian Gary. More biased than anything, and also because of the line. At plus 285, Vicente Luque is – I think he holds more value than what Vegas is giving him. Maybe Ian Gary's the smarter play, but fuck him. I'm going with Vicente Luque. I'd rather put my money – also, final point, Ian Gary – he's having a hard time mentally with all the pressure coming after him for this fight. That's like a big thing for him. He's like scared to come to the States, he said. Like, what a pussy. And he's suing Sean Strickland. Yeah, all right, buddy.
Did you see he's representing? He wants to represent Brazil now instead of Ireland.
Yeah, he's a fucking loser. Go ahead. You got Vicente too, or
Yeah, I listen. I want to root for my money if I'm going to bet on it or if I'm going to put
yeah,
money on this. So listen, Ian Gary has solidified himself as a heel in my eyes. He's
not a
annoying.
good one.
What?
Not a good one. Like Hamzat's a good heel. Ian Gary's
Yeah,
a fucking crybaby.
yeah. He's got no marketability to me other than to watch him and hope that he loses. Not and also like Floyd Mayweather also kind of had that too, that where you tune in to hope that he loses because he talks so much shit, but you'd also have to give him credit where credit is due. Whereas like you said, Ian Gary, I think he relies a little bit more on precision. He doesn't knock a ton of people out. He does have knockouts on his record. He had the head kick and then finished him on the ground to D-Rod, which I think took that fight on short notice, and it might have even been at a catch weight. I could be getting that confused, but I think there's a lot of things with Ian Gary that's going to come in here. I think he's saying that it doesn't. They asked him like, "Oh, is this gonna? Is all the hate fueling you?" And he goes, "No, it just pisses me off." And I think that that's not a good mentality to come in here with. I think he's going to come in here and try to make a statement. I think he's thinking about a ton of things at the same time. He's thinking about his wife. He's thinking about his wife's husband. He's thinking about being vegan. Is she really a wag? Is she not a wag? He's talking about the suing Sean Strickland. He's talking about making fun of the MMA guru, and he's picking fights with people in his division, outside of his division. He's changing his affiliation to Brazil after wanting to be Mini Connor. Like there's just so much rolling around in the world of Ian Gary, and he's a human too. And I think with all of that going on, to have to be precise and then to want so bad to finish somebody like Vicente Luque, who's historically got a really good chin, historically is going to be able to have a little bit better of a ground game. Listen, Ian Gary, we've seen him get held up against the fence and not really prosper when it comes to grappling or come to clinch games. So for all those reasons, yeah, I kind of want to go with Vicente Luque, both from a strategic perspective and I'm like, I want to root for the guy that I want to win, and I want to do it wholeheartedly. So I'm going to go with Vicente Luque here. I think he's in a good position. I think we're in a good position to bet on him at plus 285. And hell, if he loses, he loses. It is what it is. But he's kind of an underdog. Like it just all the stars are aligning so that we can really get behind Vicente Luque and hope he knocks Ian Gary out. And Ian Gary's almost turning himself into a Bilal Muhammad type.
Yeah, just annoying as fuck. Yeah, I'm glad to put my money behind Vicente Luque. I'd rather, like you said, root for where my money's going to be. Same thing on the next fight, and maybe it's not the most intelligent thing ever, but Tony Ferguson versus Paddy Pimblett up next. Tony Ferguson is the only guy that could have like all those L's on his record, and I'm still going to put money on him. He's plus 285 as well, right, against Paddy Pimblett. Yeah, I'm gonna ride with Tony Ferguson all day. I feel good about putting my money there in this fight because even though Tony Ferguson, like you want to talk about a decline, Tony Ferguson can't. I keep seeing the memes, like his old slide that he was doing, just even in like 2019, he can't do it anymore. His knees don't move the same. He don't move the same anymore. But you look at his resume; it's all guys that are like leaps and bounds above Paddy Pimblett. Paddy doesn't have the striking form when it comes to the jiu-jitsu, where like that's where Paddy like really specializes and thrives. Tony Ferguson don't tap for shit, and he's still got, even though he got subbed by Bobby Green. Bobby Green's like a little dirty and poked him in the eye, and I still think that Tony Ferguson has like the better. At least like when it comes to the defense, when it comes to jiu-jitsu, his defensive jiu-jitsu is still good enough to get away from Paddy Pimblett, and his striking is good enough to piece him up on his feet. I think Paddy's just as slow as Tony is, and Tony's just more precise and has better timing. Has a little bit more power in his shots still. He's got like old man power at this point, like dad strength. But yeah, I'm gonna go with Tony over Paddy. Again, would rather root for where my money's going to be, and I feel good about this pick. So, what do you think, Tom?
Yeah, I don't feel good about picking Tony Ferguson. Like you said, you kind of see the decline in his knees. I mean, listen, he got submitted by Bobby Green, who's not necessarily known for his ground game. How long ago was that? It wasn't too long ago. That was 4 months ago. So not feeling particularly great there. He always says that, I've changed this. I'm into it now. Working out with David Goggins at 39 years old and pushing your body to that place. Yeah, it's great that you mentally can get there, but when you have to go against somebody else whose body is maybe in a better recovery state, that's not good. I mean, David Goggins can push his body wherever. He doesn't have to compete against another human being that's trying to kill him. So I think maybe it was a mistake there. We're going with the training because it's not like Tony's issue was that he wasn't in it or that he didn't have good cardio. His issue was that he wasn't looking fast. His issue is that his knees weren't there. His issue was the accumulation of damage from years of wars. And I don't think that training with David Goggins is going to fix that. Also, you got Paddy, who's 28 years old. You know, he's been off for a little while because of a broken foot. He's coming back in there. Unfortunately, I'm going to have to go with Paddy the Baddy here. Would love to see Tony Ferguson, you know, go out there and get a win, especially over a guy like Paddy that we love to hate. But I just think at this point, I'm not seeing anything from Tony in the buildup that's going to lead me to believe that. And I think potentially training with David Goggins is going to hurt more than anything because it didn't do anything for him. On top of it, it's not like Tony has looked faster, and you can see the decline in his physique either. He looks more like a Nick Diaz than a young, hard, jacked guy. I mean, listen, if we could get Tony Ferguson on some of this post USADA, you know, if we could get like a TRT Vitor, a TRT Tony would be sick. But until we get TRT Tony, I'm going to go with Paddy the Baddy here.
Yeah, fair point. You know, it's just like, how do you see Paddy beating him, though?
Paddy historically has a pretty good chin. He could walk through, even though he keeps his chin in the air. I don't know if Tony has the power to hurt somebody. Yeah, he wobbled Chandler a little bit, and Chandler came back and just put his lights out. So I think Paddy is going to have an accumulation of damage. I think Tony Ferguson may find himself in a bad position, whether it be in the clinch or on the ground. I think he might try to. Unfortunately, I think Paddy the Baddy wins this in almost any area. I think he's more durable. I think he's younger. I think he's faster. I don't think Tony's going to be able to get out of the way and move his head enough. I think Paddy's going to piece him up. He has he throws more volume. Tony throws more weird shit, but I think at this age, the weird shit worked when people didn't expect it, and he was quick enough to pull it off and had power behind it. I don't think he has power behind it. I think people are expecting it, and I don't think he's quick enough to pull it off either. So I just think Tony's going to go in there, look like a shell of himself, trying to do an impression of Tony Ferguson. And I think Paddy's going to see it coming and just kind of like, remember when, who was it? Jiu-jitsu practitioner. His name is escaping me right now, but he like hurt his arm or something and ended up rolling around in the ring for a little while, in the octagon for a little bit until he was finally finished. I think that's what we're going to end up seeing with Tony Ferguson, unfortunately.
Yeah, I don't know. I just I don't know if Paddy's as intelligent as you're giving him credit for, and I don't know if his jiu-jitsu is as good as you're giving him credit for. And I know his striking is not that good. So, but whatever. We'll find out on Saturday. Maybe David Goggins is the difference maker. You know, maybe like he'll be the new like fight camp. Maybe that'll be like where guys start going from here on out. You got to train for a week with David Goggins. All right, next up, we got Shavkat Rakhmonov versus Stephen Wonderboy Thompson. And it pains me to not go with Stephen Thompson, but I got to go with Shavkat Rakhmonov. He's just a great talent. He's got it all together in every area. There's not much to say about it, right? Like, Stephen Thompson looked really good in his last fight against Kevin Holland. He did. It was a great win for him. He ended up like breaking Kevin Holland's hand, I think, when Kevin Holland went to go block a head kick, and that's ultimately like what won him the fight. And then he was supposed to fight Michel Pereira, and Michel Pereira did not make weight. But yeah, I just think Shavkat Rakhmonov is like potentially a generational talent, just in terms of like how all put together he is, and his grappling, his striking, everything like that. He's not going to have the same agreement that Kevin Holland and Stephen Wonderboy had together, where they agreed like not to go to the ground. Like when Kevin Holland knocked down Wonderboy, he didn't chase him down there. He had the opportunity for some takedowns. It wasn't until his hand was broken where he went to go down there. If the fight goes to the ground, or even if it goes to like a clinch situation, Shavkat Rakhmonov has an obvious advantage when it comes to the striking. Wonder Boy can compete with Rachmanov in the striking in terms of like the accuracy, the precision, the timing, the movement, the distance control. They're on par with each other. I just think that Shavkat Rachmanov brings so much more power behind his strikes. So I'm gonna have to go with Shavkat Rachmanov this week. What do you got, Tom?
Yeah, I'm going with Shavkat Rachmanov. I think when it comes to striking, Stephen Wonderboy still may have the advantage here. I think even potentially speed, creativity, and precision, absolutely. But I think the way we've seen Stephen Wonderboy lose is because he gets held up against the cage, and he doesn't at 40 years old have the ability to break off of that, get an underhook, fight to the corner, push off, and then start landing his offense. I think we're going to see kind of like we're going to see the what do you call it treatment. Remember his name. What's the guy's name? I can't remember his name. I know his nickname is Remember the Name. I remember he's boring, but I can't remember his name. Whatever. He must not be important. But that guy,
I don't know who you're talking about.
I don't know. That name doesn't look familiar to me. I don't know. But either way, the way that guy fought, where he held him up against the cage, Gilbert Burns, I think we're unfortunately going to see another one. Listen, I didn't do a great job of time management. So I only have 2 more minutes to give in the rest of my picks. So I'm going to do that now.
Okay.
Leon Rocky Edwards taking on Colby Covington in the main event, because this is what I had more to talk about anyway. Unfortunately, I think Leon Edwards is going to get this one done. I think he's got really great striking, and so does Colby. I think Colby's striking is actually kind of rudimentary, and the way he strikes looks unorthodox, but I was watching a couple of videos today, and the way he strikes is MMA-style striking, so he can get in there close and get to a takedown, whereas he may throw a jab and then throw a 2, but keep it extra high here so it doesn't land, but he's protecting his chin. He's protecting himself with that 2 coming back. I really think that, when Edwards throws a 2 and Colby takes it, returns the 1, and then goes to throw his 2 back like this, I think you're going to see Leon Edwards just pop an uppercut right under there. He's going to go a 2, pull back uppercut, and because Colby's hand is going to be outstretched like this, it's going to go right under and it's going to pop him. Add in, he's a little bit older. He's been out of the cage for about 2 years. There's all of this pressure on top of him because he calls himself, the crowned champ already. He's talking a little bit about who he's going to fight beyond Leon. Just a lot of stuff that you don't like to see. I think Leon Edwards is composed. I think this isn't his first title defense, so I think he's kind of washed away some of that. So I think Leon Edwards is actually going to get it done. I think he's going to be able to, like when we saw him take down Kamaru Usman, which is something that we didn't see Colby Covington able to do. He's 32 years old, so you got to remember he's entering his prime now, whereas Colby's kind of on the way out, especially with the time off. I think it's going to be a great fight. I'm really interested to see how it goes, but that one part of Colby Covington's offense, and even though he just kind of wins on the accumulation of damage, I don't think he's going to finish Leon Edwards. Leon Edwards always has the ability to finish somebody, especially with a head kick. I think he's a very cerebral fighter. I think there's going to be some holes in Colby Covington's game. You got George Masvidal who came in there. I don't think he had much of a game plan other than, I'm just going to break this dude's face, And then before that, Kamaru Usman kind of knew what he was getting into. He took out Tyron Woodley 3 years ago, but that wasn't a version of Tyron that anyone's bragging about. It's really hard to know how good Colby is at this point, and I think we know how good Leon is. So I'm going with a safe bet. It's only 145, so it's not even that hard of a pick. So I'm going to go with Leon Edwards, and then for the co-main, Alexander Pantoja and Brandon Royval. 2. I have to go with Pantoja. I think Pantoja, he beat Brandon Royval by submission not too long ago, 2.5 years ago. I saw a video that was saying that basically every time Alexander Pantoja, with the exception of 2, grabs someone's back, he probably goes on to win, if not then, but later. I think he's got a great way, a very creative way of taking everybody's back. I think he probably is better in striking than Brandon Royval as well. I think Pantoja, he's the champion for a reason. I think he's going to go out there and get this one done. He's got a little bit shorter of a reach, but pretty comparable. He's a little bit of the shorter guy, which could potentially help him with his grappling. So he's going to have more limbs to kind of grab. There's more of Brandon Royval for him to grab and less of him for Royval to counter with. He's going to have a lower center of gravity if he does get to the ground and does use those diverse set of takedowns and submissions. I think it's going to be a rough night for Brandon Royval. It's going to be an interesting fight, but I think Pantoja is going to take this one. And with that, I'm going to head out. Sorry for my poor time management, but have a great rest of the show, and I can't wait to break down how this card went with you next week.
So, all right, dude. Talk to you later.
Peace out.
All right. I'll run down my last two real quick. Small screen, who cares? I'm just going to bang them out in like 2 minutes. I got Pantoja over Royval. Pantoja's good at closing the distance against a tall guy like Royval. And like Tom said, like when he takes somebody's back, he's in a solid spot, really creative when it comes to getting there. When he takes guys down, especially because he's like often the smaller guy, especially a guy like Royval, so it's hard for him to get his legs underneath him and really just buck Pantoja off. It's really tough for him to do that. So I think Pantoja is going to take him down eventually, or he might even land a shot that drops Brandon Royval at some point. And then when it comes to the main event, or the main event really, Colby Covington. I'm taking Colby over Leon. More of a hopeful pick than anything. I'm hoping that Colby goes in there throwing bombs with a very like Khabib versus Conor McGregor-esque strategy. Goes in there throwing bombs and really just throws off Leon. Surprise him with a couple of takedowns here and there. But uses that MMA striking that Tom was talking about before he had to jump off. So I will run down my picks real quick and then say sayonara to all you fine folks at home that tuned in for this one. So we're going with Shamil Gaziev over Martin Buday. I got Casey O'Neill over Ariane Lipsky. I'm going with Bryce Mitchell over Josh Emmett. Tom is taking Josh Emmett in that one. I have Vicente Luque over Ian Machado Gary. I'm going with Tony Ferguson over Paddy Pimblett. Tom has Paddy Pimblett in that one. We both have Shavkat Rakhmonov over Stephen Thompson. We both have Alejandro Pantoja over Brandon Royval. And we split on the main event. He has Leon Edwards. I have Colby Covington. All right, well, just a reminder, everybody, please like, comment, subscribe. If you can't watch us on YouTube, you can tune in on Spotify as well. You can listen to us in your car, on your run, at the gym, whatever. Follow us on Twitter, at Pickin Fights. I'm at Pickin Keith. Tom is at Pickin Fights Tom. I don't think I'm missing anything. Shout out Tom for sticking around as long as he could. Sometimes you have to get in here on weird nights and off nights. So, but yeah, thank you guys. See you Sunday. Bye.